Breed, global truth. What's good, everybody? It's your brother New Breed coming back with another live stream. Had to have a brief intermission to work out some kinks over here with this software. Peace and blessings to the chat. Hopefully y'all able to get back in. So we're talking about the Deliverance film from Lee Daniels. Happens to be Netflix #1 horror movie right now as we speak. A lot of people are talking about this film. And what I want to do is I want to fill in the blanks and really express some of the things that a lot of Christians should have learned watching this movie, if you so happen to have watched it, right? And I think a lot of people have watched it. And what I want to do is really unveil some of the religious dogma and actually get into this, man, because the rabbit hole goes pretty deep. This is based on a true story of a single mother that is raising children, I think 3 boys and a girl, and they moved into a home that was severely demon possessed. And I believe this took place back in 2011, right? And the mother is this very brash, kind of tough woman, right? You know, but she very direct, very straightforward, a little bit rough around the edges. And she's doing the best she possibly can to raise these children as a single mother. And it gets more difficult for her when one of her sons begins to display signs of possession. And then eventually all of the children start to resemble those same signs, right? And I want to really talk about this because, you know, there was a lot of points that you could have learned from watching the film. If, you know, you watch this type of material. Of course, I'm a creator. Everybody is talking about this movie, so, you know, I got to chime in. And plus, for those who don't know, I have done movie reviews on my channel, and this may be a spoiler alert. Matter of fact, it will be, in fact, a spoiler alert. So, brothers and sisters, as you enter, make sure you thumb the video up and share, hit the share tab, and make sure you engage. Make sure you're in the comment section. If you're watching, I see brothers and sisters rolling in. What is going on? Three's in the building. Y'all make sure y'all subscribe to Three's channel too. I see Garrison in the house. KK, Brother Sunrise, Promise Grace, Purpose Over Everything. Let go. Yes, indeed. I see Samuel Led Ministries in the house. Promise Grace. All right, let's go. Let's go. Now, I got this interesting footage that I want to react to of the cast of Deliverance. And this here speaks volumes in itself. And I'm just going to chime in some of the talking points. And while they're speaking, I'll sort of interject some of the things that were actually taking place in the film and what you can learn from it. All right, let's go.
One of the things that I read about that I was like, okay, this is deep. You know, nowadays, when there's sex scenes in films, they have an intimacy coach that comes around and makes sure nothing go wrong. You know, nobody's touching where they shouldn't. But you had like a religious kind of like person on set, the kind of to do deliverances.
Yeah.
Talk about that.
Because I read the making of Exorcist. I read the making of what was that Poltergeist.
So they had, you know, various ministers, what they call deliverers, on set. And I can assure you all that a lot of those people that they had on set did not have the power to stop these people who participated in this film from getting possessed. All right. Now I want to explain why. Because a lot of them don't understand demonology. They don't understand the Bible. They don't understand the truth whatsoever. And when you watch this film, some of the same mistakes that they made far as trying to rid these children of these demons, I can assure you the ministers, the pastors, the preachers, the people that they had on set, they believed the same ideology that was being preached in the film. See, in this movie, what they were attempting to do was basically push everybody into Christianity, and believe that it's power in speaking in tongues. That's really boils down to at the end. I have to give y'all the spoiler because they tried everything until, the main character was speaking in an unknown tongue. Now, biblically, that's not even supposed to be going down. Biblically, there's in the day of Pentecost in Acts chapter 2, tongues were real languages within the earth, not some unknown tongue, not some gibberish. And it's interesting how they get our women this way. They go from one extreme to the next. Soon as they see that there's demons that are real, they're in the house. Now they believe that the answer is to go into these churches and be speaking in tongues and be involved in a whole nother form of witchcraft. And that's what the film was really, that was the agenda behind it. Trying to get y'all to fall for the witchcraft. You going from demonic possession to witchcraft. See, a lot of times these ministers, pastors, preachers, whatever you call it, they're simply exorcising the demons, not getting rid of the demons. All right. But anyway, let's continue.
And things happen.
Yeah.
And I was not going to let things happen on my set. And also I needed it for me. And so we prayed before every, and there's those of us that don't believe in prayer. There were those that don't, and it was still okay. I think, Glenn, we brought you in and we prayed, you prayed, and was that your first time sort of experiencing that sort of experience too?
Praying in a circle on a set?
Yeah.
Yes.
Exactly. Exactly, 3. They had people on the set to deliver in case it got out of hand in real life. Because movies like The Exorcist, Poltergeist, a lot of people in these horror movies, they end up dying after the movie is filmed. Like there's a whole history of these people dropping dead, experiencing demonic possession, and even not even just horror movies. Sometimes when these people have to tap in, to certain entities and spirits, and they yield themselves to play a specific role, it often affects them. So, this kind of stuff is very, very, very real. And they were just trying to avoid anybody being possessed. So they got people on set because, they're really entertaining real demons while filming these movies. And also there's a lot of times there's sacrifices that come with these movies. There's literal sacrifices. I would not be surprised if one of these people that's sitting right there, something ended up happening to him. And I'm not trying to speak negative on nobody. I've seen the codes. I've seen the series of events that happen with movies like this. And you can't be shocked if in the near future, somebody who played in this film has something very bad happens, because that's what happens when you're dealing with these type of demons and spirits. Right? Let's go.
With the deliverer who spoke in tongues sometime.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
I thought it was incredible.
Yeah.
Now you see, the whole thing is to talk about speaking in tongues. She said they had deliverers on set speaking in tongues. Those was witches. I guarantee they didn't know what language they were speaking. In 1 Corinthians 14:27, it says, if any man speak in an unknown tongue, let it be by 2 or at the most by 3, and that by course, let one interpret. But if there be no interpreter, let him keep silent in the church and let him speak to himself and to God. Yo, I'm going to tell you right now, there was high levels of Satanism, witchcraft, and voodoo witch talk going on that set. Glenn Close she just confirmed that they were on set and they were speaking tongues. All these ministers and pastors and quote unquote deliverers were exorcising the demons, meaning trying to keep the demons at bay. Because when you put out a horror movie at the capacity that they just put out, they're trying to keep those spirits at bay because they're dealing with some malicious, malevolent spirits on set. Now, I want you to understand, man, this stuff is real, y'all. They didn't have no interpreters. On the day of Pentecost, there were real languages being spoke. When you read Acts, this second chapter, and the reason why they all understood each other is so they can take the gospel back to their respective homes, right? Anyway, let's continue. You got to know the biblical history. You got to know the history because you have Christians watching this and like, you know what? I got to learn how to speak in tongues because there's things going on in my house. Or there may be things that I see happening and I want to protect my home from demonic possession, which we're going to talk about that too. But it's crazy. Let's go.
But you would say, okay, we're going to pray now. Anybody want to come? We're going to do it now. You know, so everybody knew what we were doing and they could choose to come.
So they were just praying on demand on the set.
Spoken tongues sometime?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
with the deliverer who spoke in tongues sometime.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
I thought it was incredible.
Yeah.
but you would say, okay, we're going to pray now. Anybody want to come? We're going to do it now. You know, so everybody knew what we were doing and they could choose to come or not. And it didn't matter.
Well, okay.
Yeah, go ahead, Monique.
So Lee didn't tell me that there was someone that was going to come to my trailer.
Oh my goodness.
To pray. So when he came to my trailer, he said, "I'm coming to pray for you." I said, "My husband already does that. I'm good."
Right. You was like,
You was like, "No, thank you."
No. You was like, "I got Sydney. Don't come over here."
I don't know who this man is.
Right.
Imagine
I
somebody
forgot to
saying,
tell
"I'm going
Mo.
to come pray for you." I said, "No, you're not."
Monique probably knew what type of people were doing these prayers, incantations. Monique she from Baltimore, so she's probably like, nah, ain't nobody finna pray for me because listen, they're not actually praying for you, they're praying on you. Not P-R-A, we talking about P-R-E-Y. They're praying, they're literally doing incantations, placing demons, placing certain spirits on these actors and actresses. Monique was like, nah, you good. You're not finna come and pray for me. She has a husband, right? Which also, you know, I want to point out that in the film, it was a single mother raising these children, no man in the picture. And I want you ladies to understand something. It's very important that a strong masculine energy is in that home that is tapped in with the Most High, a man of truth, a man of substance. That is very important. Even if you have somebody in your family that's of good faith, that you know, brother, uncle, father, these are the figures that you want in your home doing the praying. You know, when you first move in, let's just put this, anywhere you move, there's already entities in that home. This is a fact. If you move into a new home, there are already existing forces that live there that came from the last residents that lived there. They're familiar spirits. Somebody left some type of spirit behind. So first and foremost, when you move in, you're supposed to have that dominant male figure. You're supposed to, or if you're a woman, you're supposed to also pray over your house. This is a fact. You got to look, when you move into a place, pray over your house. pray over your house, man. You cannot let any and everybody do it for you. Like 3 just said, everybody can't pray for you either. It got to be somebody that you're entrusted in. But that house, it has remnants of the past resident. Trust me. And sometimes you can feel it when you enter the house. Like it has a vibe, it has a spirit. How many of y'all can relate to that by show of ones? You ever been house shopping, looking for a place to go? You go in there. Soon as you walk through that door, as soon as you cross that threshold, it's like, yo, there's a certain energy. It could be good or bad. It could be good or bad. But there's a spirit there. That has to be nipped in the bud before you start moving your belongings in. Before you decide that that's the place you want to be, pray over that place. That's real talk. Let's go.
That's what he came back and said. He said, she said no. Yeah, but it was really beautiful. And I think that we needed it. And it was needed for,
Yeah.
It was needed.
It was needed. It was needed for the film, actually. He's about to say that. It's needed for the film. Those prayers were needed to cultivate a demonic energy. Look, witches pray. Warlocks pray. They have a religious belief as well. This is why that speaking in tongues thing, y'all got to be aware of that. Look, when you see them people in the churches laying hands on people and they're doing all this, I should have bought a Honda. I should have bought a Honda. I should have bought a. I'm telling you right now, they're doing one or two things. Either exorcising a demon through communication with whatever foul spirit is in that person to get the demon to insulate and lie dormant to make it seem as if they performed a miracle. Or they're literally putting demons on you. You ever notice how a lot of these churches continue to have deliverance ministries? I'm talking about deliverance ministry after deliverance ministry. Why do you think that is? Because those demons are coming back. Different ailments, different situations. If you deliver these people, why do you got to keep having deliverance ministry? It's a transfer of spirits, man. And that's what was going on the set of this movie.
It was needed for the storytelling too, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Because it's deep, dark stuff, and you got to have some kind of release, and you got to have a safe space.
And even with that, there were still things that happened on the set. That was my sister.
Wow. Listen, y'all. He said even with that, there were things on the set that were still happening, y'all. Wow. Because those priests and pastors that was sent to pray were the ones actually bringing the demons and bringing the spirits.
Is in every movie that I've ever done as my good luck charm. Mm-hmm. And she was in the scene with Glenn in the chemo scene. And
he's calling a woman a good luck charm. I think did he say it was his sister? Let's play that back.
In the chemo scene, and she's the one that sort of gave her attitude in the chemo scene. Girly.
Yes, Girly, we love her.
And 2 days later, after being in the chemo scene, she was diagnosed with lung cancer.
Wow. 2 days later after her I told y'all. Am I right? I haven't even watched this. I'm reacting to this organically. So I didn't even, honestly, y'all, I did not even know that somebody actually got sick or got, you know what I'm saying, I just literally told y'all. So every horror movie, matter of fact, I'm gonna even real quick. I'm just gonna pull this up for a reference real quick. Every horror movie, y'all. Hold up. After starring in horror movies, people dying after starring starring. I mean, the list goes on and on. You can actually just Google it, but I'm gonna share that for future references when we get into this breakdown. But I'm telling y'all, this stuff is very real. Every time, because the spirits they entertain and they want a sacrifice, and also in order for these films to be successful in Hollywood, sacrifices are simply required, right? They're just required. Let's go.
What?
Literally, my dog died on the set.
His dog died on the set. See, the animals knew it was demons present.
What?
Literally, my dog died on the set.
Wow. Lachia Coleman, thank you for the support. She says, I'm so happy you're covering this topic. Absolutely. Yep. Promise Grace says the Exorcist movie. And Lachia, thank you for the contribution. Yep. A lot of people died after the Exorcist. And the Poltergeist, I think that was the one where the most people died. I think the little girl died, the old lady died, some other person died, a couple of the extras died. Like, bro, they are playing with some serious forces. These are not coincidences. And it's specifically for the filming of a lot of these horror movies. Look, Lee Daniels said his dog died on the set. This is wild.
Gives her attitude in the chemo scene, girly.
Yes, girly, we love her.
And 2 days later, after being in the chemo scene, she was diagnosed with lung cancer.
What?
Literally, my dog died on the set. When we were putting she was spraying the demon out, a fire extinguisher. It backfired in her face. It could have put her eye out. It was, yeah, and that's with all the prayer that we had.
You know, all that so-called prayer y'all had was what was causing all these anomalies on scene. Look, everybody who saying they Christian ain't following Christ. The Bible tells us that many shall come in my name and shall do what, y'all? Deceive many. Everybody claiming that they church folks and they down with, Christ and down with the Lord. That don't mean nothing. There's a lot of witches and warlocks who hide in Christianity. And they're able to, it's like the perfect cloak. They're able to carry out Satan's bidding. And these witches and warlocks were able to come to the movies, the movie set, and literally get blood out of this. They literally got a dog's blood. They almost put a lady's eye out. Somebody got diagnosed with cancer. All of this stuff happened because these witches and warlocks was there literally preying on the people on the set. And it's also going to have an effect on the people who watched it. Now, of course, like I said, this is what I do. I can see things from a spiritual vantage point. The Most High, he gave me the insight, and he gave me, the ability to watch these films, and they have absolutely no effect on me. None. For those who don't know, well, let's say this first. It will affect a lot of people if they watch it in a negative way. Everybody can't sit up there and watch that film. Now, for me personally, I grew up and I've seen things as a child. I've been exposed to these things. And while being exposed to these things, it made me fearless at some point because I was around a lot of witchcraft. A lot of my childhood, I done told this story many times. In my childhood, I spent a lot of my time in fear because these things were present. Ouija boards, tarot cards, witch doctors, all of these things would come to the house, all of that. I would see these things. I would see entities. You can call me crazy, whatever you want to call me. But at some point in my young life, I got tired of being afraid. And the Most High gave me insight into these things, and I started being able to really rid my environment of these things at a young age. And it doesn't even bother, like, these things have no effect on me, right? And that's why I'm able to watch this stuff. And I mean, I can go right to sleep, have pleasant dreams and everything, because it's for research for me. And in these movies, they tell you how these demons really work. And when you're watching from a watchful eye and you got the discernment, you're sitting there watching it and you see what the agenda is. And I'm able to teach y'all what's really happening in these films, right? But it is what it is. Yep, you got to have the eyes to see and the ears to hear. But let's go.
I had to go to the hospital.
Why,
You did have to go
Monique?
to the hospital. That's right.
Because Mr. Daniels had me doing this scene, okay? And we outside. And it was the demon was supposed to be on top of the building. So they kept blowing this. I mean, Bev, at one point I'm like, Lee, do we have this shit? Because I can't breathe.
That's interesting because that scene never even came out. She went through all of that. There was no scene with no demon on top of the actual building. So she went through all that pain, had to go to the hospital for no reason. That's wild.
What?
Literally, my dog died on the set. When we were putting the she was spraying the demon out,
Fire extinguisher.
a fire extinguisher. It backfired in her face. It could have put her eye out. It was, yeah, and that's with all the prayer that we have.
I had to go to the hospital.
Why,
You did have to go
Monique?
to the hospital. That's right.
Because Mr. Daniels had me doing this scene, okay? And we outside. And it was the demon was supposed to be on top of the building. So they kept blowing this. I mean, Bev, at one point I'm like, Lee, do we have this shit? Because I can't breathe. They kept blowing. He was like, one more time. So when I got finished, right, my thyroid was a big, I mean, it was just sick. Oh, baby. I was like, what kind of shit is this? Yeah, so it was a lot of things happening with.
Yeah, they did that. They did that to Monique because she didn't want to get prayed for. That's the type of stuff that happened on these damn sets. She didn't want to get prayed for, and they was like, all right, we got something for that. We got something for you. You know what I'm saying? Because everybody gotta sacrifice something. Everybody gotta have some horror story while making the horror story, right? I mean, and this stuff happens all the time. And I'm not going to play the trailer for y'all. I was going to show y'all the trailer, but there's no need for that. A lot of y'all probably watched it. By show of ones or twos, by show of ones, if you actually seen this film, because then I could get into my thoughts of the movie, spoiler alert, that kind of stuff before I, you know what I'm saying, transition here. By show of ones, you seen it. By show of twos, you did not see it. If the ones outnumber the twos, I can go ahead and give y'all a spoiler. You know, I don't recommend you watch this film if this is not your type of thing. If horror movies bother you, I wouldn't watch it, because this one is it's something else. Man, it's like y'all almost an even split. Wow. Very interesting. I wish I could have done a poll. I gotta learn how to set up polls on here. So the people who even said two, they said go ahead and spoil it. And I think it was a little bit more ones than twos. All right, look. Let's talk about it. Now, from a movie perspective, I know it's a demonic film. It is what it is. It's not something that I really recommend because of the spiritual ramifications that come with it. But as a movie buff, as a brother who does movie reviews, and I'm gonna say that I thought it was a good movie. I mean, it was filmed well. They had a all-star cast. Lee Daniels is pretty good at what he does. Now, with that being said, the movie, you have this young lady who is a single mother, and apparently she's having issues with the child's father. Very early on in the film, the children, they have a real issue with the moms, right? Because they clearly want dad back in the picture. They want him back in the picture. They're making this known to the mom, like, yo, where dad at? And I believe the dad went into the military, and he would just, they didn't really get too descriptive about where the dad was at. But there was a scene where the son had some money. And apparently the dad had been wiring the son money. He'd been saving it up. And he says, look, I'm saving this up because I want to get away from you. You know what I'm saying? The main character, the mother, she was very hot-headed. You know, she had a bit of an alcohol problem, but she also, her character, she was also rough around the edges. And you can tell, all in all, she still loved her children, right? There was one scene in particular where one of her sons got bullied, and she marched outside, yoked him up, like, yo, don't put your mother hands on my son no more. You know, one of them mothers that will go out in the neighborhood and slap somebody up, you know what I'm saying, or cuss somebody out. You know, they depicted her as one of them mothers also who talk to their kids all kind of crazy. And, you know, like, I think it's very realistic how they were depicting the character. They probably more than likely met the real woman, which will show a picture of who the real lady was, who this was based on. But talking to the kids all crazy, you know, don't really believe in nothing. She didn't really have any real belief system. It was pretty much like she wasn't hearing none of that. Ain't no demons. I ain't hearing this Jesus stuff. And her mother, who had cancer, which is very interesting that somebody got diagnosed with lung cancer when Glenn Close's character, one of the main characters, had cancer in the film. There's something to point out. Glenn Close is living with the main character, so it's her and her mother's living there. But in the film, the moms just moved in, and they're at odds. You know how mothers and daughters be at odds. The mother apparently is a white lady who, you know, had a black man. She's in the black guys, right? And even though she's got cancer, she got Omar Epps, who works at the hospital, and she dealing with Omar Epps. I don't remember what his character name is, but he was like a nurse in the film. And I'm surprised he wasn't sitting there with the cast. Like, well, why y'all ain't got Omar sitting there? Like, he a legend in the game. This man, like, what are y'all doing? But anyway, they're at odds, and this demon starts to manifest. And let me backtrack just a little bit. The mother was pretty aggressive, and when this demon was beginning to harm these children, you know, she was pretty much taking the blame for it because she was a bit aggressive with her children. But some of the wounds and marks that were happening to the children, it's very unclear who was doing it at times, because you'll have a scene where the mother would black out. Like, and this is what demon possession is all about. This is what demon possession is all about. Jumping spirits, how they would jump from one person to the next, and the demon would literally, it would be a scene where something would happen. The grandmother will walk in the room. Everything is thrown all over the place. The children are against the wall crying. They're afraid. And this particularly happened a night where the mother was drinking heavily. So the alcohol induced one of the demons, I believe, personally. I don't know. They didn't really say it that way. They just try to make it seem like she was drinking, went to bed, went to sleep, and then got up and heard things happening to the kids. But it made it unclear what really happened. It made it very unclear what really happened. Because when them spirits jump in, that alcohol jump in, she could have very well got up out of her bed and just started abusing her kids. And then when the grandmother enters the room, she's like, "What happened in here?" And she looks all disoriented. The kids are afraid. They against the wall, and they just all saying they don't know. They don't know. And then one of the kids say, "Mom pushed us. Mom did this. Mom did that." So that's why I said, although it's based on a true story, now come on now. It could have been, in all sincerity, in all honesty, it could have been some real demon. It could have been the moms. Hey, I know the lady, I know the church folks, they all on the side of this lady and they trying to tell her story. She could have been an abusive alcoholic too. There's still gray areas there. But they're just showing you the demonic side of what was happening in the house. So at the end, well, let's stop. Towards the end. This demon is torturing these people, particularly the children. The demons are putting wounds on them. The children are misbehaving at school, lashing out, wilding. The youngest son, he takes some feces and brings it to school and just launched it and hit the teacher in the face. I'm like, damn. And so they take the children to get a psych evaluation. And the children get evaluated and they can't find anything wrong with them. And she's all irate, like, no, there's something wrong with these kids. They wilding. You figure out what's wrong with them. Because she's still very aggressive, rough around the edges. And they can't figure out what's happening. So then she comes across a deliverer, a female pastor or preacher, whatever you want to call her. She calls herself a deliverer. And she, has been watching the house along with the social worker. Monique, she plays the social worker, but there's also a lady parked outside the house who happened to be a pastor, a deliverer is what she calls herself. And she's been watching too. And they've seen this lady watching. And she's like, look, there's an extreme evil in that house. You know how they do in the horror movies. The pastor, listen, I need to talk to you, lady. There's an extreme evil in the house, and you're gonna need me because y'all ain't gonna be able to make it out of there. And it's a weird scene because they're like at McDonald's or something when this happens. And the lady, she's listening to it, listen to the lady. All this demonic stuff is happening. And one of the demons go by the name of Trey, which was a familiar spirit of one of the other children that end up dying in that house that lived in the basement. And in that scene, she brings up Trey. And he's like, yo, my son has an imaginary friend named Trey. But then she snaps and is like, nah, ain't none of this real, lady. You crazy. Get out my face. And it's like, lady, you got all this going on. I was confused at that part. I'm like, you got all this going on in your house, all this unexplained phenomenons. Your children speaking languages they never spoke before. It smelled like rigor mortis and death in your house. You got all this going on, and you ain't trying to hear nothing this lady got to say. It's just all reaching. She's bringing up the children name that lived there. Your son been talking to this dude. It was just crazy. But anyway, eventually she had to contact old girl. She got her wits in and got desperate. Peep this, y'all. Peep this. They break out the children out of, these kids are in psych wards at this point. Where the youngest is at a psych ward, he's chained to the bed because he's been wilding. He's just full on demon possessed. Full on demon possessed. The other children been taken from her. They in some type of home, but they out here tweaking too. They all demonically possessed and jacked up. Yo, there's a scene with a little boy who's possessed. Monique, the social worker, thought that the main character got to be abusing these kids. They mentally distraught because of her, right? She goes and sees the little boy at the psych ward or at the mental institution. While the social worker is there, the little boy breaks out of his restraints. We talking about he's on a bed. You know them restraints, those brown ones that are locked in tight. He breaks the damn restraints, crawls backwards, jumps off the bed, and climbs up the damn wall. I was like, damn. And so she like, look, I ain't going back in there. Even the people who worked at the hospital, like, we're not going in that room. We're not going in that room. Even the person who runs the institution, like, y'all not going in. We're not going in there. Yeah, we work here, but we're not going in that room where that little boy at. And so, this is the crazy part. The mother was also in some type of institution, some type of psych ward. But this is where it gets crazy. This is where, you know, the dramatization got to be real. Like, they got to be making some stuff up here. Somehow, she ends up breaking her child out of the mental institution, breaking him out. Real movie stuff. So she breaks him out of the mental institution. And, you know, she's basically takes him to the house. Now, let's repeat this. She breaks him out, takes him back to the house where she has the deliverer lady. The deliverer lady is there, and they're trying to, this is towards the end of the movie. We got to get this demon out. We got to get this demon out, this little boy. So the deliverance lady, she gets to praying, and the demon, she tells the lady, look, this demon can appear any way it wants. Don't listen to what it's saying. Yo, this demon can take form of anybody. Like, this demon is the real deal. The demon, like, the first time I tried to deliver, the demon laughed at me, right? So this deliverer lady doing her holy water thing, and she's sprinkling holy water. The demon's screaming, cussing, saying all kind of obscenities. Just talking reckless. I'm talking about the demon talking spicely, calling your mother should have swallowed you. I mean, anything, you know, that a person possessed would say. The demon was going off. She just dousing holy water, dousing it. And by the way, because I gotta educate you, that holy water myth, that's nonsense. That's Roman Catholic stuff. That's not how demons operate. You know, in the movies, they throw water and a demon steam start coming off his skin. That's all nonsense, right? Only the power of Christ, the Messiah, can remove demons, right? But anyway, she's doing all that. She got a little cross on her neck, which is pagan. The crosses are pagan, has no power. They're nothing but symbols. Matter of fact, they use the cross to crucify us. So the cross holds no power, right? Contrary to popular belief. Christ was hung on a cross, right? Actually a tree, but the Romans used the cross to persecute us. That's their symbol. Anyway, they got to get this demon out, this little boy. Dousing holy water is cussing. Then all of a sudden, the demon turns from the little boy to the mom who just passed away. In the film, they showed that the demon pretty much killed the mother. And she's already dead at this point. You know, in real life, she could have died from the cancer. Who knows, right? But this demon takes on the form of the mother, and that thing looked hideous, bro. I mean, it looked hideous. It is morphing, contorting. All the teeth turn sharp. The skin looks pale and scaly, and I mean, this thing looked wild, right? And it's just cussing. It's cussing the daughter out. And I'm kind of like laughing at it because, you know, these movies are just wild to me. But so here's where it gets weird, right? The lady, the deliverer, just to show you the power of these so-called priests and pastors, yo, that demon it whooped that lady ass. She's yelling Jesus, the name of Jesus, consistently. I mean, she's saying Jesus, Jesus, Jesus. I mean, and the demon is like laughing, like itch, I told you not to F with me, right? Like literally, that's what's happening. Like, and it just reminds me of the Sandra Messi situation, along with a lot of other situations where people are saying Jesus, 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 but they're not stopping what's happening. And I told y'all this once, I tell you that I'm gonna tell you again. Christ's name is not Jesus. His name is Messiah. His name has to start with a Y because there were no J's before the 1600s. And although he winks upon our ignorance when we don't know, you're living in a world full of information. That name is not his name. Okay? Now, we're not here to argue the name. We're not here to do that because let's make this very clear. Christ knows who we're talking to. It's about intention. But at the same time, with a high-powered demon, because it's levels to this. I got to explain this to you. There's a levels to spiritual warfare. There's levels to it. So if this high-powered demon knows that ain't Jesus' name, right? They operate in a certain way. So you have to have the deep knowledge, the knowledge. And his name would have been something more like either Yeshua or Yeshaya, which means Messiah. But not to argue or debate the name, because the scriptures tell us also that when he returned in Revelations, it says he will have a name that no man knows, only himself. It will be a mystery. He will come back with a new name. That's been prophesied. But the point I'm trying to make here is that demon punished her. I mean, the demon literally took her out. I mean, it took her out. She died right there on the spot. She died trying to deliver that young boy. And then so the demon started kicking the other ladies behind too, because now the deliverer lady, her last words was like, it beat me because I was afraid. You got to go get it with no fear. And then she just gave up the ghost. So now this lady who doesn't have no experience in spiritual warfare, this lady who has a drinking habit, rough around the edges, rugged, tough, you know, kind of like a street chick, you know, one of them street ladies, some street chicks. Now she got to go deliver her son, who then took on forms of the mother, and that dude then turned real strong. He's just a little boy, but man, when I tell you he whooped her ass all around, up and down that damn house. I mean, damn. I mean, he whipped her ass upstairs all the way back down to the middle floor, all the way back down to the damn basement. I mean, that demon went, I mean, it went bananas on her, right? It just literally whooped her ass all over the house. So I'm like, oh man, like, yo, this is getting wild. So she gets to the basement where the other child that lived in the house previously died. And now, you know, it's all kind of satanic energy there. And, you know, pretty much the son is on top of her. He's probably like 8 or 9, but he's like on top of her, choking the life out of her. And she's damn near death, knocking at death's door. And she gets like, you know, when you crossing over, you start seeing your loved ones, you know, on the movies and stuff. The mother's there. And the mother's like, yo, it pretty much like, it ain't your time. I don't remember exactly what she said, but it was something like, yo, it ain't your time yet. Like, you know, hey, not yet. So she kind of snapped out of it, woke up and started calling Jesus without fear. And here's where it gets crazy. All of a sudden now the name is working. I said all of a sudden now the name is working. Even though we know our history, but when she was near death, all of a sudden, I don't know why, now the name is working, and the demon's kind of backing up, like oh snap. Then she goes into this trance that you see in the churches. You know that trance where ladies be like, blah, 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 and they just be sitting there just shaking like literally like this, just speaking in tongues, going into convulsions, just blacking out, speaking this unknown tongue. She starts doing that. And all of a sudden the demon just is paralyzed. And then she just keeps going and going. And now the demon just hits the ground, bursts into flames, and, you know, goes into hell or whatever the case is. And the little boy just wakes up. He snaps out of it. And the caseworker comes by and, look, we're not able to get your kids back right now, you know, but we're going to work. The caseworker seen the boy break them restraints. So she already know that the demon possession was real. So she's like, look, we're not going to be able to get him back right now. But when the film ended, it says 6 months later, through various court dates and stuff, she was able to get her kids back. And then at the end, she went back to the father. Now, listen, in her so-called right mind, now that she knows spiritual warfare is real, she's telling the kids, look, we moving. I'm getting back with your dad. I'm getting back with your dad, and it is what it is. So she went back to the dad at the end, which is a good ending. I'm glad she went back to the dad. But the point I'm making, in these movies, they have agendas. And when you really look at this, right, when you see what's really taking place here, they're trying to get you ladies to go from one extreme to the next. Now they want you up in the churches speaking tongues, believing that is the word of God, believing that that's somehow righteous. I told you what them scriptures said. 1 Corinthians 1:14. If any man speak in an unknown tongue, let it be by two, or by most by three. And that by cause, let one interpret. But if there be no interpreter, let him keep silent in the church and let him speak to himself and to God. So now Christians who watch that movie believe that getting the gift of tongues, because that's what the agenda was, getting the gift of tongues will somehow be able to take out a high-powered ass demon. That's what the agenda was. They'll make you believe that. And it's nonsensical. Acts chapter 2. I'm going to scroll down Acts chapter 2 a little bit so y'all can see that they were real languages in the earth. Let me see. Well, I will have to read the entire chapter to really break it down. That's for another time, another topic, another day. But go to Acts chapter 2, brothers and sisters. Read Acts chapter 2. You will see what the purpose of tongues were. Also, the gift of tongues actually is being able to learn a language very quickly. Meaning you can travel to a place, you can go to a different state. I mean, a different state, a different country. And all of a sudden, you only been there a couple days, few weeks, and you're speaking the language of the land. That is the gift of tongues. Not gibberish, jibber jabber. And that's what the program was in this film, to try to get you to embrace speaking in tongues. But I'm gonna play this video one time for the one time, all the way through with miniature interruptions, so you can see what these people went through just making this movie. For those just joining,
was like, okay, this is deep. You know, nowadays when there's sex scenes in films, they have an intimacy coach that comes around to make sure nothing go wrong. You know, nobody's touching where they shouldn't. But you had like a religious kind of like person on set, the kind of to do deliverances.
Yeah,
talk about that.
Because I read the making.
Wow, something I just got a download about this film. At the end, when the lady started speaking in tongues, she actually suppressed the demon. She did not rid it. Wow. And you know how I know that to be facts? I know that to be facts because, oh, check this out. This is crazy. When you read about the real story, They said that it was demonic activity happening even after she left. She never got rid of the demon, y'all. Matter of fact, they had to bulldoze that home. That house is no longer there. The house you see in the thumbnail is the actual house. They had to bulldoze it because it was still strange phenomena taking place. So they're actually they're telling you the truth, but you have to be watchful to know what happened. So they never got rid of the demons. And it goes back to what I said about speaking in tongues. Only one or two things can happen. Either you're suppressing that demon, exorcising it, or you communicating or casting demons in. That's the only thing tongues can do. So what was truly happening was she was making the demon lay dormant. The demon could have stayed in her. The demon could have stayed in her. Matter of fact, at the end, the demon took her form too. While she was being choked, the demon took her own form. Wow. Wow. It makes total sense. It makes total sense, bro. Man.
Of Exorcist. I read the making of what was that Poltergeist, and things happen.
Yeah.
And I was not going to let things happen on my set. And also I needed it for me. And so we prayed before every, and there's those of us that don't believe in prayer. There were those that don't, and it was still okay. I think, Glenn, we brought you in and we prayed, you prayed, and was that your first time sort of experiencing that sort of experience too?
Praying in a circle on a set?
Yeah.
Yes.
Glenn Close been around for a long time. I'm pretty sure she done some rituals on set.
With somebody with the deliverer who spoke in tongues sometime?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
I thought it was.
Glenn Close is a damn good actress, y'all. I mean, she is a damn good actress. She went from 101 Dalmatians. Like, she played Cruella DeVille. She played in a lot of good movies. She is good, bro. Like, even in this film, she's acting like one of those, one of those white ladies who Into the Brothers kind of street. You know what I'm saying? She played that real good. I would have never thought. I would have seen Glenn Close playing that type of character, but she managed to pull it off, bro. I don't know how she did it, but she pulled it off. And I think it's probably because of them damn spirits. She probably channeled something to be able to do that, man. But she pulled it off. From a movie perspective, I'm still looking at as a film, a movie buff, And I noticed let's go.
It was incredible.
Yeah.
But you would say, okay, we're going to pray now. Anybody want to come? We're going to do it now. So everybody knew what we were doing, and they could choose to come or not. And it didn't matter.
Well, okay.
Yeah, go ahead, Mommy.
So Lee didn't tell me that there was someone that was going to come to my trailer.
Oh my goodness.
To pray. So when he came to my trailer, he said, "I'm coming to pray for you." I said, "My husband already does that. I'm good."
Right. You was like,
I said, "No, thank you."
No. You was like, "I got Sydney. Don't come over here."
I don't know who this man is.
Right.
Imagine somebody
forgot to
saying,
tell
"I'm gonna
Mo.
come pray for you." I said, "No, you're not."
That's what he came back and said. Ever done as my good luck charm, and she was is in every movie that I've ever done as my good luck charm, and she was in the scene with Glenn. In the chemo scene, and she's the one that sort of gives her attitude in the chemo scene. Girly.
Yes, Girly, we love her.
And 2 days later, after being in the chemo scene, she was diagnosed with lung cancer.
After being in a chemo scene, she was diagnosed with lung cancer. These are real people's lives, just for participating in this film.
What?
Literally, my dog died on the set. When we were putting the she was spraying the demon out, a fire extinguisher. It backfired in her face. It could have put her eye out.
See, that's what I'm saying, brothers and sisters. This stuff is real. So with that being said, I want to thank each and every one of y'all for catching the broadcast. Hopefully this was highly informative for you. And what Christians should have learned watching this movie you actually got that information. And you know, look, stay prayed up. Be careful who you bring in your house and what you bring in your house. And understand that demons come in people, places, and things. So, you know, be very watchful and mindful, and you know, pray over your belongings, pray over your home, and you know, make sure that you right within as well. Look, thank each and every one of y'all. Y'all have a blessed one. More material coming. Turn your post notification bell on so you can get these videos as they're being uploaded. Thank y'all. Y'all have a blessed one. Shalom and peace.